Red identity crisis. The basis of that was that there had been an so this is actually part 2 of this year's Justice League Justice Society. Hi, I'm Glenn Simpson, and I've collected comics for over 40 years, and I'm showing off my collection one box at a time. Today we're looking at box number 94. We're going to finish up on Justice League of America, the first series. We'll go through the second series, the third series, and some one-shots and some various things that are all Justice League of America. So it's going to be a good time. Glad you're here, and welcome to Glenn Simpson's Comics. Alright, picking up where we left off in the last video, we are at Justice League of America 142. Right there. All new double length novel. 50 cents. Crazy. 60 cents. The numbers are just going up as we speak. So this was an interesting issue. This was the notion here. It starts off kind of dumb. It starts off with Green Arrow noticing like that talking about real world publication dates and how somebody said that they formed in this year, but then they everybody knows that the first issue was this year, and it was just, you know, looked a little too meta there at the beginning. But generally speaking, the idea was that the origin of the Justice League that we had been presented, with them fighting the different aliens from the Apelex aliens, wasn't really the first meeting of all of the heroes. And so we have all of the DC characters who were appearing in comics right before the original Justice League of America book, before Brave and the Bold, 28 or whatever, that had the first appearance of the Justice League of America, kind of teaming up, and they are fighting white Martians, which is of course the enemies of the Martian Manhunter. And so there's a little bit of New Frontier in here. You got Blackhawks and Vigilante and Congarilla. And of course, in the whole Earth 1, Earth 2 thing is all over the place. Robot Man, Challengers of the Unknown, Batman and Robin. So, you know, it's an interesting bit of fun history, if you will, or a twist on the story, but I don't, not necessarily canon anymore. There you go. 145. Our team versus some 33-page thriller. Right, you're getting your doggone money, what you paid for, out of this stuff, man. Out of these giants. 148. So this year's JLA JSA team up includes some Legion of Superheroes. So that's, most of the time, a lot of the times, that's what they. So instead of going to a new Earth, it involved the Legion of Superheroes from the future. And then we have 149, League going up against Dr. Light, back when he was a real threat. There. Got 152. So this is Treya, who is in a small European country, or not, some small war-torn country, and I forget the name they gave it. I think it's a fake country, but she finds this orb and creates a menace, whatever. unintentionally, little girl. But she winds up being adopted by the Red Tornado. The Red Tornado, of course, being an android, and much like the Vision over at Marvel, you know, he yearns to be a real man and to find his humanity. He has a girlfriend in Kathy Sutton, who is a social worker, and so then with Treya, they become a little family there. So he sometimes puts on a skin mask and becomes, well, a fake skin mask, I guess that's a pertinent word, and becomes John Smith. Not too imaginative on his secret identity. 153, we have, so in this, I believe, yeah, I think this may not, I can't remember if this is the first appearance of it or not, but so in the old DC multiverse, you had Earth Prime, and Earth Prime was supposed to be the Earth we live on, where DC heroes only exist as comic books, and where, you know, Julius Schwartz and Gary Conway and Elliot S. Maggin and all of the creators, that's where they live. And but then we suddenly have a superhero turn up in the name of Outtro, and so he winds up leaving Earth Prime and going to live in on Earth 1. So it's just League of America 153, 156. Got the team up against the Fiend with 5 faces. There. And 157. Got Supergirl hanging out to help out against Siren. Joe Staton, Giacoya on art on that one. So 160, we are definitely getting into the Dick Dillon era. Dick Dillon was a great artist, and he drew Justice League for a very long time. And drew like a gazillion consecutive issues. Maybe didn't do all the covers, so he's probably been doing it, you know, for several issues now, the interiors. But this year's JLA, JSA team up involves another time travel adventure, and they wind up meeting some various characters that live in the past, like Enemy Ace, Jonah Hex, Black Pirate, Miss Liberty, I think, and Kong, something like that. Oh no, Viking Prince, maybe Viking Prince. Anyway, so that's actually probably, well, I don't know. And then we get to 161. This book showed up in a lot of ads. Zatanna joins the Justice. Despite what the cover looks like, she actually joins the Justice League. She gets her new ponytail costume. And lots of word balloons. She turns out to be a much nicer person than she is. And interesting, okay, here you go. So, I used to see this cover with her being kind of rah, rah, rah. And then there's another book that we'll see in a bit where she's acting out of her normal personality. And so I used to think that Zatanna was just a bee, you know, because like that was all the exposure I had to her, was her being, you know, angry and that kind of thing. And it wasn't until later I found out that, you know, that was not her natural personality. That's 161. We go through 164. We're getting her background and the notion that she comes from a race of beings with sort of magical powers that have hidden themselves away. Cindella being her mother, which if Cindella, her mother, married her father, that would make her Cindella Zatanna. We've got 165. Jose Luis Garcia Lopez doing cover art on that. It's kind of needs, that needs a pressing on it. So 166 and 167, and we're going to see them all. For those of you who have read Identity Crisis, the basis of that was that there had been an adventure in the past where some of the villains had exchanged minds with some of the heroes, and while they were in their bodies, they figured out who they were, what their secret identities were, and so that led to Zatanna mind wiping some of them, which led to the whole premise around Identity Crisis. Well, this is the actual original story that's referring to. So as much as I don't like the Identity Crisis story, I do give it props for, you know, a good shout out to something that had actually happened before. So 166 there. We don't know what's happening, you know, from the cover. We don't know what's happening, but what's happening is they're changing minds. So we've got you got 167, continuing that storyline, trying to tell, you know, Superman is in the Wizard's body. The Wizard is actually an Earth 2 villain also. They don't really explain why he's on Earth 1 all at once, suddenly, but anyway. And then this is actually the first book, a very early Justice League book, and this is the culmination of that storyline. And these are the heroes that got taken over. These are the heroes that they were in, and so they're, you know, switching them back. But that's what I was saying. So I was seeing Zatanna with the evil Star Sapphire's personality, and I'm like, ooh, that Zatanna chick's, you know, mean. And then, you know, then eventually I put it all together. Props to not having elongated man stretching on this cover. I mean, you know, surely the dude doesn't just sit there stretched out all the time. So, but this is my classic copy. You can tell because it has a little red dot on it. Because when I was like 9, I decided that it made sense to put a little dot on every one of my comics. Boy, do I wish I hadn't done that. Anyway. Oh. So then we jump to 171. Another classic storyline. This is another JLA, JSA team up. There's not like a third Earth or anything, but this one's all about a murder mystery. The original Mr. Terrific is killed during this adventure. And it's a kind of a locked room mystery. They have to figure out who killed Mr. Terrific. And then, so that gets kind of heavily retold a couple of places. I know it, I'm sure obviously it gets mentioned in the Spectre issue that introduces the new Mr. Terrific. And I want to say, gosh, somewhere like maybe in Starman, in one of their Times Past issues, somewhere else we get another more, you know, years later, we get a relook at that storyline. So, and so of course that continues here. 172. There you right, so we got some commotion out there, but we have 173. The team decides to invite Black Lightning. There's some accusations of tokenism, but they decide to this genius idea to dress up as other kinds of some sorts of villains and fight and get into fights with him, test him out, and he's like, no, F you guys, no, I'm not joining you. So this is not a bluff. He really does say no. So not their best look. 176 got versus Dr. Destiny, the dream warrior, dream-oriented villain there. He's got a stone, and that is the stone that I believe over in, real serious Neil Gaiman Sandman, he retrieves. It belongs to him. So we'll throw back there. Let's see, 177. Just your basic Justice League adventure. We've got the return. Okay, so Martian Manhunter. Martian Manhunter, is an original member, but then they have this whole storyline, and so the implication of the original Martian Manhunter stories is that the Martians all still live on Mars, and Martian Manhunter gets teleported to Earth, and then there's just no way to get him back, which of course he lives in a world where Green Lantern could put him in a bubble and take him home, but the siloed sort of storylines that you sort of have to ignore that. So then I think they have a storyline where all of the Martians have to leave Mars and go live on a new Mars 2, if you will. Another planet, and that sort of gets them all out of, catches. Now that we're at the point where, that just to get rid of that storyline, that issue. So the Martian Manhunter just kind of comes back and visits every once in a while from Mars 2, and this would be one of them, wherein he is dealing with Despero. Helping to deal with Despero. And we have, of course, the 179 Firestorm, the great new character of the 70s, joins the Justice League. Firestorm is the combination of Ronnie Raymond and Martin Stein, who are caught in a nuclear explosion at a nuclear power plant and develop the ability to merge into one being with nuclear powers. He can transmute the atoms of inanimate objects into things. He can make bullets into marshmallows and things like that. Ronnie is in control. The teenage boy is in control, but he can see Martin Stein kind of is in his head, giving him guidance, and they can, either one of them can form generate the combination, the fusion. So sometimes they're going about, one of them's going about their business, and the other one summons them, and they merge, that kind of thing. So he had his own book, and then it got canceled. So he joined the Justice League, and then they would bring it back, give him his own book again soon. So we got this Jim Starlin cover where of the members of the Classic League to join as well. All right, moving along to 180. So it's kind of funny. The first issue, where after Firestorm joins, he gets himself in over his head and has to call in the rest of the league. It's like, well, we let you join. Are you going to be, calling us every 5 minutes? Dude. Issue 180, fighting the Satan in the discotheque. Because it's still the 70s. 181. We have Green Arrow leaving, kind of feeling that, he prefers to deal with street level crime and that sort of thing. All right, so then we get to 184. So this is actually part 2 of this year's Justice League Justice Society team up, and the quirk this year is it's involving Jack Kirby's New Gods. And Dick Dillon, whom I mentioned earlier, has been just cruising along, doing every issue of Justice League, and then Dillon passes unexpectedly. So they quickly hand the book over, with the second part here, over to this new kid named George Perez, who'd been doing a few odds and ends and had been doing some stuff over at Marvel. And he comes in and just tears it up, and becomes, the legend that is George Perez. So it is sad that it had to happen at the, due to the passing of Dick Dillon, but we got the amazing George Perez on Justice League. He will do Justice League, and will try to do Justice League and New Teen Titans, which he gets to introduce in a year or two here. Although he kind of gets busy and can't keep up the pace, so we don't have him forever. But that is the classic story of the transition. This is also, Jack Kirby had created Darkseid, and Darkseid had pretty much mostly shown up in stories, that Jack Kirby wrote. They were in the Fourth World. So this was, and the Fourth World didn't necessarily tie in. Sometimes other heroes might have, like Superman, might show up in those Fourth World stories, but the Fourth World didn't necessarily, jump back into the main Marvel universe that much. But with this crossover, we definitely had those characters, including Darkseid, and we would see Darkseid again probably the next time, other than other Fourth World's New Gods stuff, in the Great Darkness saga with the Legion of Superheroes. But anyway, 184. 185. Continuing. Now Jim Starlin is doing the cover here, but George Perez is, I believe, on the art inside as they, work out who's going to do what when. 188. Here, in fact, I remember this is sort of like part 2 of a story, but it only is in the first half of the book, so you only get like a half of George Perez in this issue. And then another short story. 189, we've got Brian Bolland coming over. He is a British artist known for his covers on Animal Man, and his work in the UK books, coming over and doing covers for DC. So, and then inside, I think we have George Perez on art. I can't remember. But this was a classic, another return of the Starfish Conqueror, which it looks silly on first glance, but it is actually a really good story. So, 189. This is another early book for me, 191. Rich Buckler on the cover. We've got the Justice League versus Amazo, the android that can copy all their powers. And this gets into, I think somebody decided that Zatanna was just way too powerful. So they kind of say, oh, well, you know, she was doing these amazing things, but now she's going to be kind of limited. And then that lasted like 5 minutes. And then they went on back to her doing whatever it was, you know, whatever she wanted to do. This costume designed by George Perez for the character, by the way. Then we got a few issues of pure beauty, George Perez beauty. We got this 192. So we're getting into the true origin of the Red Tornado. So originally, he was an android built by a mad scientist named T.O. Morrow, who could something about it, could see the future or something. But and he was infiltrating the Justice League. The Justice Society, and became a Justice Society member. When he decided that even though, you know, I'm an android, but I want to be good. And then he got destroyed, and then he got rebuilt. And when he got rebuilt, he moved over to Earth 1 and became a Justice League member. And so that was that. So what we learn here in Justice League 193 is that, so there had been another earlier Justice League story with a villain called the Tornado Tyrant. It was an alien tornado, sort of like air elemental thing. And that thing had, after the events of his original story, had decided to become good and had journeyed to Earth. And he was there when Red Tornado was being rebuilt, and so he integrated himself into Red Tornado. So Red Tornado isn't just an android, he is a melding of the original android with this alien being. So he's, you know, not just a robot. So there you go. This issue also features, this was when they were doing these previews, similar to how New Teen Titans has their preview in DC Comics Presents 26. This one had a preview of All-Star Squadron, introducing that. So in 193. Go. Then we get some more George Perez goodness on this fantastic Justice League, Justice Society team up. They're fighting the Injustice Society, and it's kind of a combination. This version is a combination of villains from both Earths, including the Ultra Humanite, and it's all George. And the issue before this, issue 195. If you've ever seen it's like a pin-up, and it's got like all the Justice Society members over here and all the Justice Leaguers over here, and you know they're kind of in the satellite, and it's got, you know, Johnny Thunder over here and Snapper Carr and thing. That's actually in the issue before this, 195. So there you go. And then that Secret Society of Supervillains. Sorry, I said Injustice Society, but I get all those mixed up. That team up, and that, you know, our guys come back and win the day, as you do. 97, and then 200. This beautimous issue. Lots of team up. All of the kids come back for homecoming, as it were. And we have George Perez cover, and he does the opening sequence with Firestorm fighting the Martian Manhunter. And what has happened is, it harkens back to the origin of the Justice League, with them fighting the Apellex aliens, the aliens came to Earth and were fighting each other to see who would be king of their planet. And Justice League had to, or the pre-Justice League had to stop them, and they decided to band together, and become the Justice League. And so there was some kind of seed pod left behind or something, meteor, and it takes over the minds of the original 7. So then the next, all of the members who are not the original 7 have to come back and get together and stop the original 7 from reforming those aliens, who are then going to, destroy the Earth or whatever, blah, blah, blah. So, beautiful stuff. Lots of classic artists. The whole team is there. It's awesome. Highly recommended. 5 stars. 201, we got a return of Outtro that we mentioned I think, this video or last video, who was the singular superpowered being from the world that was called Earth Prime, which was supposed to be our Earth, but we keep spawning these superheroes. First it was Ultra, and then later it's going to be Superboy Prime, so I don't know how they can say that we don't have super beings, because we clearly do. Oops, sorry. But there you go. That's 201. Got 202. I definitely remember this one. This one has a beautiful George Perez cover, and inside is Don Heck art. I remember being very disappointed in that. Issue 202. 204. Our team goes up against the Royal Flush Gang. Right there. The Royal Flush Gang has this weapon that puts our heroes into comas, and they are being controlled by Hector Hammond, who is a telepathic villain, foe of Green Lantern. And sort of in a weird bit of I don't know, I was never too sure about it. So I said Martin Stein is kind of floating around in Firestorm's head, directing him, giving him advice and things like that. And so they kind of, in the book, it'll say, okay, well, Hector Hammond is kind of on the same wavelength as that. And so he and Martin Stein can actually have a physical combat there in the astral plane or whatever. That's 205. 208. So the Justice League and the contemporary Justice Society have a time travel adventure wherein they team up with the All-Star Squadron, who are the same heroes from Earth 2 as the Justice Society, but from the 1940s. And we get some great George Perez covers on the Justice League side, and the famous head with the heads going all the way around, that kind of thing. We go to 209, some more. They kind of move the heads around, but it's always the same number of characters in each team when these things happen. We we've got this storyline, 212. I remember this was like they were doing a graphic novel. Like it was going to be like a really, a thick secondary, original graphic novel. And then they decided not to publish it that way. And so they broke the story up into 3 parts. And this is the finale of the 3-part story there. Let's see. We've got 213. This is some more gorgeous George Perez covers with John Heck on the inside. Something happened to Adam. He shrunk down and he shrunk. So the Justice League has to shrink down to try to find him. And they kind of end up on a microverse kind of place, a world within, within the microcosmos, as it says, and have to locate Ray Palmer there. Issue 213 through 216, the finale of that. There, they meet all kinds of interesting superhero-y, kind of fantasy-y kind of characters in this world. Whereas Micronauts is more like space stuff, if you will. This was more like fantasy, for what it's worth. There. Alright, then we have this just beauty cover. I don't even remember what's going on the inside. Beauty cover on Justice League of America 217. Pretty sure this has been made into t-shirts and trapper keepers and all kinds of stuff. Then we have 220, part of the JLA JSA crossover, and the thing here is, okay, they're fighting so Johnny Thunder is the guy, is he on here? The guy who controls the Thunderbolt, and he lives on Earth 2. He's from Earth 2. Well, it turns out there's an Earth 1 Johnny Thunder who's a jerk, and so he figures out he can steal the Thunderbolt away from the regular Johnny Thunder, and so he does, and he, tries to take over the world. But along the way, what we find out, the question at hand was, so Black Canary had been in the Justice Society with all of, Golden Age, all the Golden Age heroes, but now she has been running around with Green Arrow, and kind of their age, Green Arrow's age. She should be much older. So what happened? And so what we find out is that the when she decided to, she had a daughter, and when the daughter was born, the daughter had been cursed by the wizard to have the sonic scream that we know Black Canary to have, but it was uncontrollable, and she was gonna, wreak havoc and cause problems. So they had the Thunderbolt put her into sort of suspended animation, and leave her in this sort of limbo area. So then when the senior Black Canary decides to move from Earth 2 because of the death of her husband to Earth 1, instead of actually changing Earths, she sort of sacrifices herself, or she's dying or whatever, and her spirit or whatever is put into the body of her daughter, and then everybody is made to sort of not notice this. And so that is why the Black Canary that had been in the Justice League for so long was, relatively young, compared to what she ought to be if she was, from the 1940s. So, just a little, trying a little continuity fix there. This would get carried over into after post-crisis, when you didn't have an Earth 1 and Earth 2, where they just simplified the whole thing and just said, well, you had 2 Black Canaries, you had Senior, who had been in the 1940s, and then she had a daughter, and the daughter was the second one, the younger one, who was in the Justice League, so and is running around today. But so that's what's all going on. So a lot going on right there, everybody. But good stuff. I imagine that's being written by Roy Thomas. I can't remember for sure, but he's the guy that does that kind of thing, So 221, we've got this artist Chuck Patton coming on. He, this is the only thing I know that he did, and he's going to draw it for a while, and he was great. I mean, very open style, very George Perez-y, but I don't know what else all he did, where he went. This was kind of a interesting storyline. The Justice League finds out there's these people who are being crossbred, given animal traits, and then thrown into an arena to fight it out for rich people. And there's a lot of blood in this, relatively speaking. There's a lot of blood in this story, and we got Rena, the cat woman, and that kind of thing. So issue 221. Issue 224 features this guy Paragon, who his superpower is that he is always a little bit better at anything than the people who he's around. So he's kind of like the parasite. He absorbs powers and things, but he's a little bit more powerful always than the person that he absorbed it from. So and this is actually the first Justice League of America story written by Kurt Busiek. Kurt Busiek would go on to write all kinds of Justice League things, Avengers things, and would go on to write JLA Avengers down the road. We've got 225, Justice League versus some Mystic stuff. There with the Hellraiser. Until we get to 208. Or 228. Sorry. Martian Manhunter has returned. Last seen in issue 200. And he's got a lot of angry Martians on his tail. So the Martians have decided to leave Mars 2 and come and invade the Earth and take it over. So he's actually not like on their side. He's come to help us. And you can this is what's leading into the Justice League Detroit, because and I'm gonna go ahead and move on to the next issue. We have all these superpowered, evil baddies showing up. They destroy the satellite, and we've got all these baddies showing up, and just all of Superman and Batman and all the other main members are just busy. They're just busy elsewhere. So a smaller team has to get together to deal with this Martian invasion alongside the Martian Manhunter. We have an interlude where we find out where Superman, Wonder Woman, Flash were, and they were stuck in a fight alongside the Justice Society against this guy, this mystic, incredibly powerful cosmic dude, and with Supergirl alongside them, and that is where they were. But in between there, you had, we'll see it in a minute, the Justice League of America Annual, wherein the Martian Manhunter and Aquaman decide to form a version of the League where everybody is full-time. You live there. You can't go home and, be fighting crime in another city. You got to be, all full, on duty 24/7, and so they roll together the what is known as the Justice League Detroit, because that is where they make their headquarters. And so included, once they get to Detroit, they meet a local guy with vibratory powers. He's called Vibe. He's Puerto Rican. He speaks with a funny accent, and he break dances a lot. So that's issue 233. That's what you did in the 80s. Through 236. The Gypsy is another, unfortunately named. Of course, back then it wasn't really a slur, so it's just one of those things of the times. Joins the team with her ability to blend, her chameleon powers to blend into things. We also have Vixen, the supermodel with animal powers, and Steel, the grandson of the original Steel, who had been in the All-Star Squadron and had come to Earth 1 at some point. So they form the Justice League Detroit. I think we have another interlude with a kind of a this is a just I think this was a Deadline thing. They threw this story in there to as a filler. Somebody was running late on their art or their story or whatever. But anyway, well, shoot, I guess seems like we're getting a lot of those, aren't we? But I swear there's Justice League Detroit in between. It's working out where these other sort of filler issues are on the outside. So this is another filler drawn internally by Mike Sikowski, who is a classic Justice League artist from the 1960s. Right there. All right, back to, so now we have the actual an issue showing prominently the actual Justice League Detroit, as it were. Got Steel and Zatanna, Martian Manhunter, Gypsy, Vibe. Aquaman had to go. Had to go hunt for Mira. Mira was missing, so we left Martian Manhunter in charge. We got Vixen, that kind of thing. They're fighting Amazo. And the crisis hits, and they get into the thick of that. So they're kind of teaming up with the JSA and Infinity Inc., and we have a fight between the Steel and his grandfather. His grandfather is still alive and healthy, and Steel didn't appreciate he's kind of like a cyborg, and he didn't appreciate being made a cyborg, and so that's why he and his grandfather are having it out there while everything's crumbling around them. Oop. Okay. And we lose Chuck Patton, and we get Luke McDonnell. Luke McDonnell, I wasn't too thrilled about Luke McDonnell. Luke McDonnell would go on to do Suicide Squad, the original, well, not the original, but the most famous one in a couple of years. So very much less sort of tight art style, but kind of dark. Anyway, 245, we've got Steel having an adventure during the crisis. Then the things settle down with the crisis, and we're technically in the post-crisis world, but it's just nothing that has changed with the crisis affects this book, so it just kind of keeps on going. 248, Martian Manhunter having a solo adventure. 249. There's something that is invaded their headquarters and is sucking all the life force out of them. 252. The team goes up against, Elongated Man's been there this whole time, by the way. 252. They go up against the new Mohawk Despero. Remember I said he transformed into from horizontal Mohawk to vertical. There you go. Making him more fierce and scary. 253. Batman comes back to, or has come back to whoop these guys into shape. There. 256. Martian Manhunter dealing with some fire. That's his weakness. That's his kryptonite. 257. Justice League dealing with some mental entity. And then the whole thing ends. Vibe is killed. Steel is killed. Vixen survives. Gypsy survives. But things get ugly, and they decide they have to end the Justice League of America and bring it to an end. So, of course, this is the final issue of the classic 1960s beginning Justice League of America. It will go on to become just after Legends. This is they're involved in Legends. Once Legends is over, we will have the new Justice League, the Keith Giffen, Kevin Maguire Justice League. All right. So they had some annuals. They didn't have any annuals until later on, and it didn't have any 60s or 70s annuals. This is like from the 80s. Number one. And then the team is going up again against Dr. Destiny and his dream-powered powers. In the middle here is that where the Justice League Detroit is formed, and in Annual 3 we get the team dealing with the Crisis, and that would move on to the actual, the main series there. We've got some of the older Justice Leaguers teaming up with with the Detroit team. This covered by Paris Cullins right there. So after that series is over, you go Justice League and Justice League America and Justice League International and then that all ends. Then you go JLA for a long time, and then once the JLA ends, then you have our next actual series named Justice League of America, which has a 0 issue. This series starts off written by Brad Meltzer of Identity Crisis, cover by Michael Turner right there. So they got a 0 issued and this is actually before issue 1, so you're not, unlike most of the 0 issues where that's kind of I show you that, but then it actually came out after issue 1. I think this actually came out before issue 1. We've got issue 1. So this is, looking at your lineup here. No, they're not all in the team. This is kind of like who will be a member. And, this is after 52 because we've got Batwoman. Let's see what other clues we've got. We've got the Supergirl. The new has returned. This is part of a 2-part cover. There's another one that's, got another batch of heroes there. So the team, this is all being drawn by Ed Benez, who is known for his women, but draws well, either way. We've got this sort of merging of Amazo and Red Tornado. Poor Red Tornado. I mean, he can't stay put together for more than 5 seconds before somebody is tearing him apart again. Issue 6. There. Issue 7. Part of a kind of a multi-cover that has some classic artists filling in up here. So you've got, and I don't know if it's the real deal or just a mock-up, but you know, you've got somebody. It looks like maybe a Mike Sikowski bit up there, and then you've got the so the history of the league, and then a George Perez Satellite League, and then a Luke McDonnell Justice League Detroit, and then there's our current team, and I think there may be another. Again, this may be another. There may be another cover that keeps going with the JLA stuff and all that. Issue 11, Michael Turner draws. We got Arsenal, Speedy. Well, I think he's going by Red Arrow at this point. This is the former Speedy partner of Green Arrow. He's graduated, and he's a member of the league now. Got Vixen. Got so Hawk Girl, who had been introduced and had been a member of the Justice Society. She joins as well. Probably really a tie-in to the cartoon. Black Canary, Superman, Batman. Issue 12, we've got a beauty of a Alex Ross cover here. I think it's a wraparound cover on that. Covers on this iteration are probably better than the stories inside, but beauty of a cover there. 16, we've got the our heroes meeting the heroes of the Tangent Universe. The Tangent Universe is a universe where the names are used, but they mean something different. So instead of the Flash being a male hero who runs, the Flash is a female character with light powers. And what's another example? So the Green Lantern is this mystical character who carries this, Green Lantern and sees ghosts. And Superman is a telepathic and telekinetic. And you have like a team of heroes called Nightwing and things like that. So the names, they take the name and just totally reimagine what the name could mean. And then so our heroes are crossing over with Tangent. Oops, sorry. Get you straightened up there. All right, we've got Justice League of America 17, Black Lightning cover there. What's his name? Ethan Van Sciver. All right, maybe, yeah. Issue 24. Ed Benes. We got Animal Man joining. Nancy. Dwayne McDuffie, who had worked on the Justice League and Justice League Unlimited cartoon, comes on and is doing writing. Of course, he had written for the Milestone comics as well. He passed away not too long at a young age. R.I.P. Issue 25. Bunch of everybody. Red Tornado, yay! Ed Benes, doing a kind of a very knockout, very loosely clothed Wonder Woman there. Ian Churchill, Rod Rice. 32. Got Dr. Light coming back. We've got Starbreaker, classic DC Justice League villain. Rags Morales of Identity Crisis doing some of the art. We have Starbreaker appearing in a recent, as of this recording, storyline in the Green Lantern books. Continuing the Starbreaker storyline. There, I don't remember who he was, but anyway. 40, we are in Blackest Night. So it's a Green Lantern event that has spilled over to the rest of the DC universe. And long story short, there are, superheroes who have died are rising from the dead and forming an army of the dead on behalf of Black Hand with his black ring. So we got Vibe, who died. I don't know who I'm not immediately picking up on who the other two are. 41, so the team kind of resets a bit, and on their membership, we've got Guardian as a member, Mon-El is a member, that's his leg, Atom, Green Arrow, Cyborg graduates to full membership, because of course in this version of continuity he had never been a member before. Green Lantern, and Donna Troy graduates from the Titans. So from the Titans, we got the two of them. Congarilla, that's his arm. The blue-skinned alien Starman, Batman, Dick Grayson Batman, Supergirl. We'll see some of the others in a minute. So yes, so Raven, Jade, Donna Troy have joined. They're encountering, past versions of their Teen Titans friends. We've got Brett Booth coming on to do art. Some people like him, some people don't. Got a fight with Eclipso that includes the Shade. Got so Jade. Got Dick Grayson Batman. How do you know he's Dick Grayson Batman? Because he's got a bat for his buckle. That's how you know it's Dick Grayson. Because I just know that he was, Batman at this point. 57 team Obsidian from Infinity Inc. coming in. So they're just pulling from everywhere at this point. The only thing I didn't like Donna's costume at this point. I felt like she was going to fall out of that thing, and there's just no reason for it. Just bring it up. Just get that hint, get that seam or whatever the term is for it. There's no sense in having her falling out of her suit. Right, we got Jesse Quick as a member. Still got Dick with his bat belt, looking like Michael Keaton there. There you go. And that is the end of that edition of Justice League of America. So then, I think the next thing, let's look at the, can we tell? Yes, that's October 2011. So we go from that to the New 52. We have Jeff Johns' Justice League book with Cyborg as a member and the team, fighting Darkseid as part of their initial meeting. We saw that back in the previous video. And that goes a couple of years, and then they decide to bring back the concept of Justice League of America to run alongside of that. And as a stunt, they do like 52 variant covers, one for each state, showing that state's flag. So if you didn't guess from my accent, I am in Mississippi, so I figured I'd get the Mississippi. Not that I'm, proud of it or anything, but hey, but you are where you are. You work with what you got. So I figured, hey, not many people will probably get the Mississippi, variant. So I got that, and it's like a $20 book. So we have a Green Arrow and Vibe, and the brother of the previous Vibe, and Stargirl and Simon, what's his name, the Green Lantern, and some other, Hawkman and Catwoman, and some others, forming a new Justice League of America. And it actually turns out to be Amanda Waller and putting together a team that can fight the regular Justice League. So that's really what she's up to there. But anyway, so yeah, I got this. There's 52 or so versions, because it includes Puerto Rico and some things. Now, for what it's worth, this is not our flag anymore. We did change our flag. I'm not overly fond of the new one either, but we did change it. So it no longer, at least it no longer has the Confederate thing on it anymore. So it is what it is, but there's a little bit of info about that. Let's see. So we've got, oh yeah, Martian Manhunter. And some of this had to do with, what was it? There was a crossover that was promised, and it was supposed to involve 3 Justice Leagues. And so, but they really hadn't pieced together who those 3 Justice Leagues were going to be. But they were trying to stick to what had been said, and so they had to create this Justice League to, Zatanna had to create this Justice League to, satisfy that requirement. But this one's also got Steve Trevor, I think, Stargirl. So there you go. That then you got through issue 8 right there. Various rings, various tools and items of the main heroes. This is a Forever Evil crossover, so they're fighting the Earth 3 crime syndicate. We take a little break to have the 0.1 issues with these plastic covers that have the like 3-dimensional look to them, and tell some new 52 origins of some characters issues. So we got 7.1 with Deadshot through 7.4 with Black Adam right there. Shoot. And we've got issue 9 right there. I don't remember. I think that's Onamar. Oh no, that's Martian Manhunter protecting, Stargirl. But of course, that's fire, and he's not real good with fire. Issue 14. We're still doing Forever Evil. I forget how long Forever Evil went on, but the series ends with issue 14 right there. Alright, so then we kind of forgetting, let's see, 2016, after Yeah. After, sort of between New 52, when New 52 had kind of calmed down, but we weren't quite into Rebirth yet. We had this Brian Hitch Justice League of America series with the original team. I think this one basically told stories from their past. No, I take that back, because it's got, is this Super Dad? No, he's got the collar, so, telling some stories of for the New 52 original Justice League that were outside of the day-to-day of what was being published at the time. We've got a beauty cover there for issue 1. Issue 5, I have this Looney Tunes variant cover right there with the Tasmanian Devil disrupting the Justice League. Issue 6, I've got this variant that was promoting the Harley's Little Black Book that was about to come out. So it's got Harley teaming up with the team and kind of a sketch cover. Joe Maggiera, I believe. Some drawn art there. And issue 10, you've got the John Romita Jr. Variant. So again, as I've said in previous videos, this is a period of time where Discount Comic Book Service would give you a additional discount if you bought all of the variants that were in a given, type, program. And so it worked out cheaper with that discount to go ahead and get that, even if it meant getting a couple of extra books that I wouldn't normally really get. So I got a lot of variants back then for DC. That's issue 10. This series was perennially late. I don't know who to blame that on, but it actually didn't finish until after the next Justice League of America series had already started. So as of this recording, we're having that problem with the Batman series because the Hush 2 series is taking a while, so they went ahead and started the next series, and the last issues of the previous Batman series will presumably eventually make their way out. But we get to Rebirth, and in Rebirth, in addition to a new Justice League series, we got a Justice League of America series, and we have some villain redemption going on. We've got Killer Frost and Lobo in there. We've got the newer Atom. Got Vixen back, Black Canary, Ray. Hopefully that whole storyline of the two of them hooking up is not a part of the Rebirth story universe. We got issue 1 there. We got through issue 8. Our team ventures into this forgotten realm, and this savage critter called Maxon is living there. And Maxon is kind of hard to get along with, as you can see. And that's coming from a group that has Lobo on it. 9. Issue 16, we kind of get a flashback to the whole Ray Palmer Atom going into the microverse thing, so we'll return to the microverse storyline we saw earlier from the old series. Have some Atom on Atom action. Ryan Choi being the new Atom there. 24. Promethea was created by somebody else. I guess she was a. I don't know. I don't know the full story on that, but she's kind of like when Angela came to Marvel. She was owned by another, originally was published by another company, and all of the required permissions came along to use her in this book, but then she didn't really didn't get used much again after that. And I guess she would have to be part of the Wildstorm. I want to say, I thought it was ABC, but that, like, created by Alan Moore, but sure enough, Alan Moore isn't giving DC permission to use. I don't know. I'd have to look that up. Anyway, Justice League of America 25. We have the return of Lord Havoc, the Doctor Doom takeoff, part of all of the Marvel takeoffs, so that they could kind of play around and say, "Oh, look, it's the DC heroes fighting the Marvel heroes." There, 25. We've got our team traveling back in time. Right there. And that was it. And that's it. That is the last of Justice League of America. And I believe it's the last Justice League of America series we've ever had. So they got an annual. Lobo and Black Canary, drawn by Kelly Jones. There. They had a couple of 80-page giants. There, this is from, the Metzer series. Got Crimson Avenger wearing his original outfit there. Shining Knight versus some uglies of various types. And then another 80-page giant for 2011, the JLA Goes to Hell. And of course, since that's 2011, that would be the last before the New 52. But as far as our run here, that is the last book for this box. Okay, so that was box number 94. We will finish up on the Justice League stuff next time, and we will get into some Justice Society with some Justice Machine there in the middle. So it's going to be a good time. Thank you so much for being here. Like and comment and subscribe. That really helps the channel. I really appreciate it when you do that. And if there's anything inside any of these packs you'd like to see, be sure to comment, and we'll make that happen. So have a great day.